All right, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to another We Read the Documents live stream. I'm your host, John Brisson. Today, I'm going to read from Mike Pence's remarks, Vice President Mike Pence, to the Council for National Policy meeting. Interesting, they put it under Law and Justice at the White House, that he gave on November 14th, 2020. And I'm going to give some commentary while I read the speech out to you. Hope everybody's doing well. From the Ritz-Carlton, Tyson's Corner in McLean, Virginia. The Vice President. Thank you, as he's getting applause from the CNP audience. 4 more years! 4 more years! 4 more years! Okay, now this is Mike Pence speaking again. That's the plan, as he chuckles. But hello, CNP. Thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful, warm welcome. I'm very humbled by that. I also want to thank Marcia Taylor for those kind words and give her a round of applause. I know she's emblematic of all that is best about the Council for National Policy. Applause. Thank you so much, Marcia. And great to be here with my friend of many years, Bill Walton. Bill, thank you for your great leadership at the Council for National Policy. And to Liz McEwen and her husband, Bob McEwen, laughter and applause. Join me, would you just thank the McEwens for all they've done for the cause and the country. Applause. What a great family. Applause. We love you. Wonderful to be with you all with so many friends. I really came here tonight at the momentous time in the life of our nation, first and foremost, just to say thank you. I know a friend of mine was at CNP back in August of this last year. Laughter. Of course, he's talking about Trump when Trump gave his speech to the CNP before he spoke at CPAC and accepted the president, the Republican nomination again for president in the United States of America. And I know he would want me to say the same. We're just so grateful to each and every one of you for all the support over the past 4 years, for the ongoing support in the days through which we are passing today. And as our election contest continues in the courts around the country, I promise you, we will keep fighting until every legal vote is counted, until every illegal vote is thrown out, and we will never stop fighting to make America great again. Applause. But it's so good to be with you all tonight. I want to talk a little bit about why we fight and why it's so important. You know, the old book, an old book is capitalized, so he's supposed to be talking about the Bible. The old book, isn't it usually referred to as the good book, not the old book? Maybe I'm being a little picky there with the wording. It says to pay more careful attention to what you already have learned. And tonight, as you get ready for a very special evening, I want to challenge each one of us to pay more careful attention to the progress that we've made and to the stakes that we're facing and to the choice our nation faces. But before that, I will tell you, it is really wonderful always to be at the Council for National Policy. It's always a room that if the lights in front of me were not quite so bright, I could probably go to every table and name heroes of the conservative movement. But there's some people I want to mention here. Ken Blackwell. Of course, I did a video on Ken Blackwell. Go back and look. He's been a member of the Council for National Policy and the Council on Foreign Relations for decades. So go back and look at that video. My mentor, Ed Fullner, Grover Norquist, Charles Herbster. So we now know that Mike Pence's mentor is Edward Fullner. Now, of course, if I remember correctly, Edward Fullner was the founder of the Heritage Foundation. Yes, he was. And he attended, he attended the Wharton School of Business School, of course, where Trump and Elon Musk and Buffett were alumni of the Warren School of Pennsylvania. He went to Jesuit Georgetown University, so he's Jesuit trained, and he went to the Fabian's London School of Economics. So Wharton, Jesuit trained at Georgetown, and Fabian trained at the London School of Economics. This is the guy who founded the Heritage Foundation. he was the president of the Heritage Foundation from 1977 when it was founded to 2013, and is also a member of the Council for National Policy. This is Pence's mentor. Penny Nance has done an incredible job. Where are you, Penny? Applause. Literally marshaling women all across America. Randy Tate, Chad Connolly, so many others who are here tonight. I could just go on and on. There's two people I wanted to give you a chance to thank, though. They have been with me to one degree or another for more than 10 years. They are both men deeply committed to their country, their faith in God, and their families, and they're emblematic of all that's best about the conservative movement. Would you join me in thanking two members of my team, Paul Teller and my Chief of Staff, Mark Short? Paul Teller is also a Council for National Policy member, for the years of service and for the work laboring in the conservative movement. Applause. I love you guys. Great job. Applause. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Mark. We just are so grateful to each of you, one of you. Also, it's a great warm-up act tonight for your headline speaker, Laughter After Dinner. I will tell you, when I first heard of Bill Lee, he was a candidate for governor, a successful business leader, but a man who already established a reputation for being a man of integrity of faith. He ran a campaign that was grounded in these very same principles, and it was a tough campaign. It was. A lot of people were looking at other candidates in the primary, but people across Tennessee saw this man's quality. They saw his love for his family, his love for God, his love for the state. And I'm going to tell you, having witnessed his leadership throughout the challenging year, I can tell you the state of Tennessee and America are better for having Governor Bill Lee in the governor's office in Tennessee. Applause. Bill, it's an honor to be here with you tonight. It really is. There you go. Bill Lee, CMP. But thank you all. Thank you for what each one of you and your generosity and your efforts have meant to the Council for National Policy. It's amazing to think since 1981 all the CMP has accomplished in advancing this agenda. And while we wait results of our election, we continue to labor in courts for a free and fair election, an election of integrity. Look at what we already have confirmed on this election day. For all the spade work that conservatives have done since 1981, which is when the CMP was founded, and before, it's amazing to think that President Donald Trump and our team secured 72 million votes, 10 million more than 4 years ago. Applause. In fact, President Trump secured many more votes than any Republican candidate for president in history, and secured more votes than any incumbent president in the history of this nation. Applause. And maybe most important of all, I know how deeply meaningful it is to the president and it is to all of us here. President Trump not only secured more votes than any Republican candidate for president in history, but also secured more votes from minorities for any Republican candidate in 60 years. Applause. Our party is growing under President Trump's leadership. It's growing more broadly every day. Well, it was supposedly Jared Kushner who pushed the plan to try to get minorities to vote for Trump more, but in doing so, since Trump didn't fulfill many of his promises, that conservatives, including myself, thought he was going to do when he became president of the United States, like end birthright citizenship, for example, or be tougher on illegal immigration, or among other things, he because of that, he lost good about 8% of the white male vote, and he would have needed that to win. He didn't get it. Beyond our race, though, I don't think I have to tell all of you. Nancy Pelosi is not smiling quite as much as these days. Laughter. Actually, the court now is we added 12 seats to the Republican conference in the House. Applause. We actually flipped, Bill. We flipped 3 state houses in America for Republican control. Applause. And in just a short period of time, we're going to defend the Republican majority in the U.S. Senate by electing 2 Republican senators from the great state of Georgia. Are you with us? Applause. I mean, it's really incredible, and I want to talk tonight about why we fight and why it's so important. The battle that we are taking to the courts today is a battle that is deeply meaningful in the life of the nation, but it all begins with just defending the integrity of the vote. I mean, the truth is, I don't have to tell men and women in the Council for National Policy understand the right to vote essential to our democracy. Since the founding of this nation, the one person, one vote principle has made possible government of the people, by the people, and for the people. He's just reaffirming to the CMP, reaffirming trust and belief in the system, that Trump as the chaos candidate did so much to just destroy and erode, which was part of his plan. So it's just, we live in a banana republic. There's always been vote fraud. Hell, John Kenneth Blackwell, member of the CMP, who Pence, thanked, rigged the 2004 election to go to George W. Bush over John Kerry in the state of Ohio with the help of Karl Rove, among others. Michael Connell, may rest in peace. And, in that election, it didn't matter who won. They're both bonesmen, skull and bonesmen. Whoever wins, we lose. The same with any election. It's a selection, not an election. So I think we have any one person, one vote, or any semblance of democracy is a joke. We're a republic anyway. The right to vote is central to our republic. We're not a democracy. Even Pence even got that basic wrong. One fraudulent vote robs one honest vote from an American, and it really robs the credibility and vitality of our nation. That's why we're going to fight. Now, the liberal media doesn't get to pick our president. The American people do. That's one of the big talking points right now, like standards and norms, is America. The media doesn't decide elections. It must have been a mind from whatever Cambridge Analytica's left, even though I know it's defunct and moved on and been made a different company. I think the name of the company... Hold on, let me see. Is now Ameridata Limited. So Ameridata Limited must have polled that. That must have been what they went with. The AI and Facebook data mining. So we're going to fight, and we're going to fight to preserve the integrity of this election. We're going to work with each and every one of you to ensure the integrity of our elections through election reform. We're going to protect our elections for generations to come. Okay, so what? You have to show a voter ID? I'm for that. Even though voting's a sham. But if there's any, legitimacy to it, that's something you would do. So we fight because it's a real fight to make defend the integrity of our elections, but we also fight because the stakes in this election are so high, and how inspired we all are by what we've accomplished together over the last 4 years under the leadership of President Donald Trump. There you go. Donald Trump did what the CMP wanted him to do. It's right there. Pence said it. Now, I do that little hand thing because that's something I picked from him. Laughter. It's true. So what? Did he do the okay 666 symbol that Trump does all the time? It's as he's saying that Trump did what the CMP wanted him to do, he does 666, the okay symbol that Trump does all the time with his hands. Really? Really, Pence? I'm not getting esoteric. We've read the documents here. It's just... It's true every time. I've had people more and more times than I can remember, people who come. Mark will back me up. People who come into the Oval Office and they say, Mr. President, thank you for what you've done. It's what we've done, and think about what we've done as a nation under the leadership of President Donald Trump. There you go. 4 years ago, we inherited a military that was hollowed out by devastating budget cuts, an economy that was struggling to break out of the slowest recovery since the Great Depression. Terrorism was on the rise around the world, and worst of all, we saw our most cherished values under consistent assault from Washington bureaucrats and activist judges. In the media, conservative values and Christian values, yeah, okay. That part yeah. The rest of it's complete bull crap, but that part, did Trump really help with the culture war? Did Trump really push it over to window? You can debate that. But under President Donald Trump, in 4 short years, we rebuilt our military. I don't know yeah, they got new weapons. We restored the arsenal of democracy. So, America, fuck yeah. We revived our economy. I'm not so sure about that. We secured our border. I'm not so sure about that either. We stood with law enforcement. Okay. Yeah, you did. And we stood for life and liberty in the Constitution of the United States of America. We reaffirmed our commitment as a nation to everything the people in the Council for National Policy have been championing since this organization was founded back in the early days of the Reagan administration. And how inspiring it is to stand here today and think about all that we've accomplished in those 4 short years. Earlier today, I was with the Young America's Foundation. I had popped over to speak to all these youngsters, laughter. They're all my kids' age, laughter. And I talked them about how I got started in politics when I was about their age. It's true. I ran for Congress back in 1988. In fact, as a candidate for Congress, I told them I made my way to the White House, ended up in one of those photo sessions with my second favorite president, laughter. The truth is that Ronald Reagan was the reason I became a Republican. I was actually a Democrat in my teenage days. Oh, really? I was a youth Democrat Party coordinator Bill, and I was the youth Democrat Party coordinator Bill in Bartholomew County, Indiana, kind of a community organizer, if truth be known. Oh, like Obama. Thanks for getting that joke. Laughter. No, but when I begin to hear the voice and the ideals expressed by this, the movie actor turned politician, I joined the Republican Party and never looked back. And it was the day in the Blue Room that we were doing the photo op thing. Those of you that worked in the White House remember that. They line up the candidates and the president is in the chair. And I got to tell you I was as nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Laughter. I mean, I'm standing there with my young bride. We've been married just a couple of years. Now we've been married 35 years. And how great is Karen Pence, the Second Lady of the United States? Applause. Isn't she amazing? She's awesome. So one of the candidates, one of the campaign people had handed me some piece of paper and said it must have been about, we needed a bridge in my district, we needed a road or needed a river for the bridge. I didn't know what it was. Laughter. I was looking at this thing and we were going to put out a press release and I turned the young bride and I said, I kind of like to just say something from my heart to him. And she said, you just say what you want to say. And I sat down, and President Reagan looked at me, and this was August 1988, the waning days of that revolution, and he said, Mike, how's the campaign going? And I said, well, I got something I'd like to say to you. And he said, well, go right ahead. And I told all these young people today, that I looked at the president, and I said, I just want to thank you for everything you've done to inspire my generation to believe in this country again. And in that moment, I'll always believe the 40th president of the United States blushed, and he said, well, Mike, that's a very nice thing for you to say. Laughter. But I told those young people that story because I think we've come across another president who kept his word to the American people. Yeah, Trump did all of it. Who demonstrated to this rising generation what real American leadership looks like when you can stand unapologetically for a strong national defense. Yay! For free enterprise. Yay! Free and fair trade, Trump, but you didn't abolish the income tax. For traditional moral values, New Apostolic Reformation, and you can deliver for the American people. Applause. And I believe President Donald Trump has inspired this generation to believe in America again as well. Applause. He has, because you looked at the record. I mean, it's amazing to think all what we've done. As a father of the United States Marine captain, and I have an unworthy son-in-law that's in the United States Navy. Laughter. I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside a president that supported the greatest increases in our national defense since the days of Reagan. We've rebuilt that military. Applause. Yay! With renewed American strength, we took this fight to our enemies on our terms and on their soil last fall as the direction of this commander-in-chief after last administration saw ISIS overrun an area the size of Pennsylvania. Armed forces captured the last inch of territory under the black flag of ISIS and took down the leader of ISIS, Baghdadi, without one American casualty. Applause. In January of this year, I was there when the president was told that we had the world's most dangerous terrorist in our sights, a man who literally had the blood of hundreds of American service members on his hand. And I watched this president without hesitation put the security and safety of America and our armed forces first. And Qasem Soleimani is gone. Applause. Soleimani was really fighting ISIS. Very interesting they get rid of him right then and there. By tricking him into telling Saudi Arabia needs to see you, he's heading to the Saudi royal family, to the royal palace, the royal family, and then, he's killed by American. So we stood up to our enemies, and I believe that we've inspired the nation, have been respected in the world as a result, but we also stood with our allies. Our allies are now doing more for common defense than ever before. And it was this president, after 4 presidents before him had made the promise and broken it. It was this president who kept his word to the American people and our most cherished ally, and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. Applause. America first. America first. No, I meant Israel first. Israel first. And I got to tell you, can I just say a quick aside? Because Mark told me, tell stories. Okay, but I won't go on too long. But I mean to say that everybody in the world was opposed to the president making that decision is what I would call an understatement. Literally. I mean, laughter. I mean, literally, I was there with the one world leader after another called this president. But you know what? He's a man of his word. He told the American people what he'd do. He told our most cherished ally what he'd do, and he did it. It's incredible. That's right. Israel first. And the same is true on this economy. This president, with the support of all you in the room, cut taxes across the board for working families and businesses large and small. Repealed more federal red tape than any administration in American history. We unleashed American energy, and we're a net exporter of energy for the first time in 70 years. We took a strong stand for American jobs and renegotiated NAFTA in a way that puts American jobs and American workers first. Applause. We revived our economy. 7 million jobs created in the first 3 years. Wages rose at the fastest pace. Unemployment is 50-year low. The lowest unemployment ever record for African Americans and Hispanic Americans. Just an incredible record of success. And along the way, the president stood for the rule of law and stood for the men and women of law enforcement at every level in America. The president stood for law and order, not rule of law. He wasn't treating rule of law. He was treating law and order. Two different things there, Pence. In support of the rule of law, maybe the greatest consequence of those 4 years is what will endure for decades beyond, is that this president has appointed more than 220 conservatives to our federal courts at every level, including Justice Neil Gorsuch, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, and how about Justice Amy Coney Barrett? Isn't she great? Applause. Yeah, I'm a little partial to her. I mean, she's from Indiana. Laughter. But I got to tell you, I couldn't be more impressed. How much did you love what do you got on that paper in front of you? Nothing. Laughter. Wasn't that great? She's an amazing person. Principled, a great personal story, a brilliant intellect, and is going to make an incredible contribution to the Supreme Court of the United States. Catholic. And it was never more important than it is right now. I hope you convene tonight on something over the weekend. You have a chance to take some time to look at Justice Alito had to say in the Federal Society last night. Applause. Important words. Justice Alito said, "We've never before seen restrictions as severe, as prolonged as those that have been experienced through most of 2020. He said that previously unimaginable restrictions on the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech were routinely opposed. And went on to say that no small amount of emotion in certain quarters, religious liberty is fast becoming a disfavored right." Pence, wasn't it your administration that put us under lockdown for 90 days? You and Trump, you as Vice President of the United States under Donald Trump. Wasn't the Trump administration, the Pence administration, the Trump and Pence administration? Weren't you that did that? Okay, we're not going to talk about that, are we? No. But what Justice Alito said was what happened during the pandemic really accelerated what have already been happening in our country. I mean, we all remember the last administration, the Little Sisters of Poor being hauled into federal court demanding that they compromise their Catholic faith under the structures of Obamacare. We saw doctors and nurses' conscious rights compromised. And 2 years earlier, when Judge Barrett was going through a 2 years earlier, when Judge Barrett was going through a confirmation process, we saw the same religious intolerance 2 years earlier. They didn't even say 2 months earlier? We saw the same religious intolerance writ large, didn't we? Where the Democratic leader on the Judiciary Committee actually expressed concern about Judge Barrett's sincere Catholic faith, saying, and I quote, "The dogma lives loudly within you." Well, I made a point. We traveled around the country this last fall before crowds large and small to say the Democrats in Washington and all their Hollywood friends, that dogma lives loudly in me. Applause. That dogma lives loudly in you, and the right to live and worship according to the dictates of our faith lives loudly in the Constitution of the United States of America. Applause. That's right. Catholics unite. So the legacy of those judicial appointments, men and women, is going to help secure the foundation of those liberties. Those God-given liberties that are enshrined in our Constitution and our founding documents. And it's something of which we shall all be incredibly proud, but it's also why we fight for every single vote for 4 more years, because the stakes are so high. But never higher than the progress we've made in one last category. You know, we rebuilt our military, we revived our economy, we stood for law and order and our ideals. But I have to tell you, for the last 4 years, I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside a president who stood without apology for the sanctity of human life. Applause. Thank you. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Donald John Trump, May 18th, 2019. As most people know, and for those who would like to know, I'm strongly pro-life with 3 exceptions: rape, incest, and protecting the life of the mother. Same position taken by Ronald Wilson Reagan. Some people who are Christian would still consider this to be pro-choice. I understand protecting the life of the mother, but that's extremely rare. Extremely rare. Rape and incest is a very, very difficult conversation. Extremely difficult. But I just wanted to make it known. It's really hard for me to believe that Trump is pro-life with him being pro-choice for so many years. Still, some people who are pro-life would say those, at least the rape and the incest part, it's not an exception. That life of the mother is protecting the life of the mother, which is extremely, extremely rare, is an exception. But even then, some pro-lifers even think that that's not. But I digress. I myself am pro-life. I guess I should say I myself am anti-abortion. Not an advocate of abortion. It's been all along the way. I have to tell you, we're in office a couple of days within the president reinstituted the Mexico City policy banning taxpayer funding for being used to promote abortion anywhere around the world. He actually expanded it within a year. I'll never forget in our first month in office when the March of Life came along, the president was actually hosting the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom that day. That'd be Boris Johnson. So he wasn't going to be able to participate. I remember standing beside the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, and the president said, "Oh, so I'm not going to be able to do it. Can we just send them a message or something?" And I was still getting my legs under me, and I said, they invited me too. Laughter. And the president looked up from the desk. He said, "They invited you to the March of Life?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Do you want to go?" And I said, "Well, our family has gone for years. When I was in Congress, we'll bundle up the kids up and we'll go down to the National Mall." He said, "Well, yeah, you should definitely go." Laughter. And I got to be the first vice president in American history to ever address the March for Life in person. And 1 year later, President Donald Trump did it himself. Applause. Isn't that great? Applause. And I have to tell you, I've been president of the Senate in the last 4 years. I don't know if that impresses you at all. Laughter, but I don't know if I don't know if I had a greater honor. I got to cast a tie-breaking vote in about 15 different bills. But I never had a greater honor than that day I got to cast a tie-breaking vote on a bill that allowed every state in America to defund Planned Parenthood. Applause. And President Trump slid it into law. President Trump is the most pro-life president in American history, and that's why we fight. Applause. We also fight finally because of in what remains of this election and every day that follows. We need all of us to do everything in our power in our election and in those 2 elections in Georgia and all the fights we follow. We need to do everything in our power to be a check on what Democrats and the American left want to undo and do in America. Our agenda in America is greatness. Their agenda is American decline. Yours is a slower American decline. It's called Fabian socialism, Pence. We were opening up. They'll be locking down America again, and not just through lockdowns in the midst of the pandemic, but they'll be doing lockdowns with higher taxes, more regulations, the suffocating weight of government bureaucracy. You guys locked us down first, and then deferred to the governments and never rescinded the executive order. The governments of the states, the governors. You did it first. All these people that think Trump's the God Emperor, he knows everything, but yet he didn't know, and he was lied to Fauci and Birx, and Fauci's a great guy, but I hate Fauci, and then he's a great guy. The double-mindedness of the Trump administration, the double-mindedness of the people that still believe in Trump. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Nothing but double-mindedness. I mean, their agenda, you all know it. Higher taxes, open borders, socialized medicine, a Green New Deal, abortion on demand, defunding the police, packing the courts. That's a lot of their agenda. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to pass all that through. That's what we're not going to let happen. We're not going to let it happen. Applause. We're going to all of us, do what we can to protect the integrity of the vote, to stand with President Trump, and to win and defend the Republican majority of the United States Senate. So are you with me? Applause. Thank you. That's why we fight. So that's why we fight, men and women. It's to protect the integrity of the vote. It's to protect all we've done to prevent all that they're intending to take this country down a path of socialism and decline. What has the conservatives done? What have they done? A bunch of Fabian socialists. You just hate radicalism and communism and in your face. You want to do it slowly, don't you, Pencey and the CMP? And lastly, I know you got a much better speaker and a great dinner waiting. So just let me leave you with an admonition. If I may, I just want to urge you to stay in the fight and have faith. Right after election night was over, someone sent me a quote from Corrie ten Boom. Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to known God. Applause. I don't know what the future holds. But like all of you, I know who holds the future. And so to stay in the fight and have faith. Stay in the fight for integrity in this election every day until the courts have had all their say. Stay in the fight for the Republican majority, and let's re-elect Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue to the Republican majority in the United States Senate. Stay in the fight. Applause. And ultimately, men and women of the CMP, I just say stay in the fight for freedom. It's what involved you in this movement so many years ago. It's why the young man in the Blue Room in 1988 got involved in this movement, because it's about freedom. It's about doing our part in our time to preserve this last best hope for ourselves and for our posterity. I pulled a quote from, I think, was the shortest commencement address in history. Winston Churchill spoke on October 29, 1941, at the boys at Harrow School, and he said these words that seem to speak to me, and they might speak to you tonight. When we think about all that's at stake in the uncertain days ahead and the challenges we face, reflect on what Winston Churchill said. He said, quote, "This is the lesson, never give in, never give in, never, 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 and nothing great or small, large or petty, never give in except for convictions of honor and good sense, never yield to force, never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy." Men and women of the CMP, never give in, stay in the fight, and know this, that we fight for freedom. For all that America's freedom had meant in the past generations, and what it's meant to inspire the world, and that our nation has yet to do. I guess the Iran-Contra affair was for freedom. I guess 9/11 was for freedom. All that's meant to inspire the world and all the nations yet to do. Remember, when we make freedom our cause, that the Bible says, I thought it was called the Old Book. That was the Old Book. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we make freedom our cause, we will make his work on this earth our own, and that means freedom always wins. We don't make his work on earth our own. It's his work. It's not our work. This is dominionism. This is a heresy. It's bullcrap. Yes, the Latin American death squads, the crack in the ghettos, the Franklin scandal, the 9/11 inside job, the coronavirus first beginning lockdowns, Operation Warp Speed, the wars in the Middle East. All of these happened under the CMP. The Iran-Contra affair, all of that. So was that us making God's work on earth our own? Bullshit, Mike Pence. I didn't hear you mention Jesus. Will you not say the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? Mike, is that your Lord and Savior? I don't know. I don't know. What God do you profess to, Mike? So stay in the fight, CNP. Stay in the fight for freedom, because the best days of this movement in this country are yet to come. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America. It's an honor to be with you tonight. All right, everybody. That was Mike Pence's remarks to the Council for National Policy on November 14, 2020. It's a load of hot